Hello, this is Eddie from AppSheet here to help you create your own suite of custom applications for managing your classroom, school, or university, all without a single line of code. Today we're going to start with two things. We're going to give you a quick background on AppSheet and education, and then we are going to have a demo of a quick, simple student directory app. So the first thing to know is that AppSheet does education. We know what we're talking about. AppSheet is in use by leading organizations like Harvard, Dartmouth, University of Virginia, University of Michigan, and public school districts around the country. The Harvard Business Review has actually even featured us in one of their posts talking about how AppSheet has helped to transform what they do with Google Sheets and their directory systems. Second thing to note is that if you are an education provider, do not miss out on our 50% discount for educators and nonprofits. We'd love to support what you're doing. You'll find a link in the YouTube description section. And the final thing to note is that AppSheet is a platform. So rather than offering a single-use app or even multiple apps, we have a platform to allow you to build your own customizable apps without code to meet the needs that you have on the ground every day. So AppSheet is a platform that connects with your existing cloud-based data sources, which is helpful because then your data is no longer siloed, but rather you can maintain your single source of truth, whether that's on Google Sheets or Dropbox or SQL Server or other common data sources. AppSheet can also scale with you as you grow. So whether you're just using a couple hundred rows of data or you're using a couple million rows of data, AppSheet can handle that. Another thing to note is that AppSheet is platform agnostic, which means that we actually don't care where your data is coming from. We'll help you make the most of it. So whether you're using something like Google Sheets to build a really simple app, which is what we'll be doing today, or you're using a system like Salesforce or SQL, we can also help you maximize those platforms, which oftentimes allow you to use even larger data sets. So a common question we get is, what kind of applications do people actually build and use on AppSheet? In the education sector, what we've often seen is educators using us for things like assignments and activity scheduling and contact directories. There are also schools and districts which use us for managing grades and meal planning. We've also heard of administrators who use AppSheet to build their own flashcard systems to remember students' names. And at the university level, we've also seen a lot of unique niche use cases for AppSheet in things like lab testing, library management, and waste management coordination, just to name a few. One analogy I like to use for AppSheet is that it's a little like learning to play the piano. Everyone starts with learning a couple chords and scales, but once you've mastered the basics, that allows you basically unlimited possibilities to build anything from any common data source, leveraging all of our functionality and feature sets. So from here, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to head over to Google Sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and type in a set of column headers. Our first row is very important because this is how we detect the equivalent fields for our app. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to get the data in here. And now you can see we have our high school classroom with professional athletes from around the world. Now to get started, let's go ahead and head back to AppSheet and go to Start for Free. If we're a first-time user, it'll walk us through the short sign-in process. But for me, we'll go ahead and jump here to New Mobile App. We'll start with our own beta. We'll call this beta Superstar High School Directory. And we're going to have this be an education app. And we'll choose our data source called the Student Directory. Now here you can see we've just created our first app with AppSheet. And AppSheet is directly pulling the data and displaying it in a mobile-friendly format. What we can see is that even our image, which is drawing from these URLs, is now being expressed visually in our app. If we click into any of our individuals, we can see that the same data is reflected inside the app as well. One thing to note too is that the AppSheet app and your spreadsheet are both totally connected. So if we were to change Danica Patrick's GPA from 3.4 to 3.52, and we save that, then that change will now be reflected in our Google Sheet. Your AppSheet app is also offline compatible, so if we're in a location that does not have access to Wi-Fi, you can simply save your changes on your local device, and when you reach Wi-Fi, your app will automatically connect and sync your data as appropriate. So to get under the hood and understand what's going on, let's head over to our Data tab. And here we can see we have our one student directory database. And let's go ahead and make sure we allow adds and deletes. And that just ensures that we can add new data from our app into our spreadsheet if we're trying to add a new record. Let's also head over to columns, and you can see that here we have our various columns expressed. Now, AppSheet has already identified what most of these are, but in case we want to change some of these, you can do so here. And we can also create slices. For instance, if we wanted a subset of our data that would represent the Dean's List, we'll call it Dean's List, and we'll make use of this AppSheet expression. An expression is a lot like a Google Sheet formula or Excel formula, and we'll simply say where GPA is greater than 3.49999, then that person would be on the Dean's List. So we'll save that. And now let's head over to our UX section. So in our UX section, you can see that we have our student directory tab that we're in right now, and we're in a deck view. We could change that to a table view if we wanted, or a detail view. But I actually prefer, for this particular data set, a gallery view. You can see that we have all of our 10 outstanding students visually represented here. We could also change the icon if we wanted to. Let's turn this into a person. And we can also change our other view. So here we have our student directory 1 view, and let's turn this into a form. Now what this does, it allows us to enter in a new student on the go. We can also see above that we have our Dean's List view, which isn't reflected yet, but we can go ahead and add a gallery view for Dean's List as well. And our Dean's List only has 6 students because only 6 of them made the 3.5 cut. But let's change our original one to new student. So now our form is reflected properly. And if we scroll down, we see that we have the Dean's List. The Dean's List right now is in the menu view section, so we can see it here. What if we wanted, we could change that to be in our main tab. So now we have 3 views reflected here, and let's go ahead and add let's make them a star. And let's add an icon for our Dean's List as well. So here you can see we've created 3 simple views. If we wanted to, we could create up to 5 views in our bottom row and a number of additional views in our menu section as well. We could also customize some of the branding in the brand section and create our own formatting rules to make the text bigger or smaller, or add different conditional formatting elements for how the names are displayed. And we also have our behavior tab. Our behavior allows us to add various actions and workflows reports that affect how we use the app on a regular basis. For instance, we could create a tardy action. So here what we're doing is we're going to set the column for tardies, and we're going to set it to a new value every time we use this action. And we're going to set it as tardies plus 1. So essentially what that's saying is that anytime, let's say that Cristiano Ronaldo is tardy for class, right now he's at 6 tardies, but we could mark him as tardy, and he would be up to 7 tardies. We can also create workflows. For instance, we could have a workflow for unexcused absences. We'll go ahead and call it unexcused absences, and we'll say that whenever a change happens, and unexcused absences is greater than 5, then let's go ahead and email the parent email. And here we could either type in an email or we could use our expression. And remember, we have our columns, and one of our columns is parent email. So we'll just even insert parent email here, and we are good to go. Finally, we have reports. If we wanted to, we could add in a report that would send the Dean's List or our tardies or unexcused absences or any other key information we want at whatever interval makes sense to the specified stakeholders. Once we finish setting up our UX and behavior, we can jump over to security. In this case, we would want to require user sign-in because we have confidential data. We have phone numbers and emails, and we don't want that getting out. So we can select our domain authentication. Right now we're using Google. And for the vast majority of the apps that you'll be creating, you would likely want to require user sign-in as well. And once we finish with security, we can briefly explore intelligence. Intelligence allows us to make use of features like Smart Assistant, which is a voice assistant that enables you to find what you're looking for in the app just by your voice. So once we're done finalizing our app, we can head over to Not Deployed, and this will go ahead and automatically run a deployment check. And we can see that our app passes, and so we're going to go ahead and move our app to a deployed state. Once our app is deployed, we'll go ahead and check our email, and we can see that we've received our app Superstar High School directory is ready. If we're on our phone, we could go ahead and install this as an app on our phone, but for now we're just going to view it in our browser. And you can see that we have our fully functional app with our dean's list, slice, our student directory, and our form to create new students right here in our browser ready to go. If we jump back over to the editor, you can see that here we have a share app section, so we can share our app with our entire domain or specific users. And there you have it. That is how you build an app on the AppSheet platform. So whether you're a teacher, school staff, district administrator, or you work at the university level, know that there is a path for success for you. You can get started for free just by following the link in this video, or head over to appsheet.com and hit start for free, or head over to the sample app section and go over to education, and you can start thinking through ideas on what might make sense for you and your institution. If you have any thoughts or questions, we'd love to hear from you in the YouTube comments section, or jump over to community.appsheet.com. And with that, thank you so much for watching.